She learned early that silence could be armor. Not the kind that stopped blows, but the kind that let you endure them without breaking apart in front of others. In the small coastal town where the ocean wind carried salt into every crack, people knew her as quiet, polite, invisible. They didn't know her rank. They didn't know her past. And they certainly didn't know why she never flinched when voices rose or when hands slammed too close to her face. Her name, at least the one on her civilian ID, was Mara Collins. She worked logistics at a private maritime security firm that had contracts with the Navy. To most people in the office, she was just another contractor, the woman who stayed late to fix spreadsheets and never complained when work was dumped on her desk. When jokes crossed the line, she smiled thinly. When tempers flared, she lowered her eyes. When one manager's abuse became routine, sharp words delivered with a grin that dared her to respond, she absorbed it all without a single protest. Speak up once in a while, he'd sneer in meetings. Or is silence the only thing you're good at? Laughter followed, not loud, but enough. Mara felt the familiar heat in her chest, the reflex that had been trained into her and beaten out of her at the same time. Control your breathing. Keep your face neutral. Don't give them what they want. At night, when she returned to her small apartment overlooking the harbor, she stood on the balcony and let the wind press against her. The sea was honest. It didn't pretend to be calm when it wasn't. She often wondered when she had learned to do the opposite. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Brief. Precise. Confirm attendance tomorrow 0900. Base Conference Hall. Her reply was immediate. Confirmed. She slept lightly, as always. Dreams came in fragments. Sand. Boots. A voice calling cadence. The sharp crack of gunfire echoing across water. She woke before dawn, dressed carefully, and pinned her hair back in the same practical style she always wore. No makeup, no jewelry, nothing that drew attention. At the base, security was tighter than usual. Marines checked IDs with more scrutiny, eyes alert. Something important was happening. She felt it in the air, that familiar pre-mission tension she hadn't felt in years. It settled her nerves instead of rattling them. Inside the conference hall, rows of chairs filled quickly. Officers in uniform, contractors in suits. Her manager took a seat near the front, glancing back at her with a smirk as she slid into a chair along the aisle. He leaned over as she passed. Try not to mess this up, he whispered. This is real brass. She didn't respond. Silence had kept her alive before. It could do so again. The room quieted as a group of high-ranking officers entered. Conversations died instantly. At their center walked a man with silver at his temples and the unmistakable posture of someone who had spent a lifetime in command. The insignia on his uniform marked him as a SEAL general. He moved with calm authority, eyes scanning the room not for admiration, but for assessment. Mara felt something tighten in her chest. Not fear, recognition. The briefing began. Slides flickered on the screen. Contracts, operations, joint efforts between private firms and naval units. It was all procedural, important but expected. Her manager shifted in his seat, occasionally interrupting with comments meant to showcase his own importance. At one point, he gestured sharply toward Mara. She handled the data compilation, he said. Didn't say much, but the numbers were there. Eventually, a ripple of soft laughter followed. The general's gaze snapped to her. For the first time in years, Mara felt the urge to look away. She didn't. She met his eyes, steadily. Something passed between them, subtle but electric. His expression changed, just slightly. The general stood. The room stilled. Before we proceed, he said, voice measured but carrying easily, I'd like to acknowledge someone in this room. He stepped away from the podium and walked down the aisle. Each footstep echoed. He stopped in front of Mara. The air felt thin. Her manager froze. The general studied her face for a long moment. Then he spoke. At ease, Lieutenant Commander Collins. The words hit the room like a shockwave. Mara rose smoothly, instinct taking over. Her spine straightened, shoulders squared. Years of training flooded back, muscle memory stronger than fear. At ease, he repeated, a faint smile touching his lips. Whispers erupted around them. Confusion, shock. Her manager's face drained of color. The general turned to the room. Some of you know her as a contractor. Some of you barely noticed her at all. What you may not know is that Lieutenant Commander Mara Collins served 12 years in naval special warfare. Multiple deployments, commendations that are still classified. She stepped away not because she couldn't continue, but because she was needed elsewhere. He looked back at her. And because silence, sometimes, is another form of service. Mara felt heat behind her eyes, but her expression remained steady. The general addressed her manager directly. I believe you were speaking to her disrespectfully earlier. The man stammered. Sir, I didn't realize. That's the problem, the general said calmly. You didn't realize. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur. When it ended, people approached her with new eyes. Respect, curiosity, apologies. She accepted them with quiet grace, answering only when necessary. Outside, the general caught up to her. You've been carrying more than you should, he said softly. She exhaled. Old habits. He nodded. You don't have to stay silent anymore. Mara looked out at the water beyond the base. The sea was rough today, honest as ever. She felt something loosen inside her, something she had held tight for too long. As she walked away, her phone buzzed again. This time, a message she hadn't expected. Thank you for listening to this story. If you want more powerful, emotional, and inspiring stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Her World Stories. Your support helps us share voices that were silent for far too long. She slipped the phone into her pocket and stepped into the wind, no longer invisible, no longer alone.